Hello everyone, can I get attention? So I'm sure all of you here are for the purpose of the Psi Chi APA 7th edition formatting workshop, right? Right? Okay, so yes, everyone is here. I hope everyone is here. Without further ado, we will start because there's been some delays just now. So sorry for that part. And once again, very welcome to Psi Chi APA 7th edition workshop. Yay! Okay, so just to introduce myself, I'm Joanne, today's workshop speaker. To briefly give you information about who I am, basically I'm a year 3 psychology undergraduate. So just like all of you here, I'm also a student here in Help University, and I'm also completing my degree psychology. So I was also once very overwhelmed with the amount of APA formatting that I need to remember because it really seems like there's a lot, right, to remember. And also at times it can get a bit tedious, because there seems to be so many formattings that we need to remember. But don't worry, the purpose of this workshop is to get you, to expose you, if you are new to APA formatting, what exactly APA formatting is about. So the basics and sort of like the important things that you need to keep in mind whenever you open your Word document and you are to start to write your um, assignment or your research writing. Okay, so this workshop aims to help you to understand the general formatting of APA, as well as to allow you to learn and understand how to do citations and referencing. So that's a bit, citation and referencing is a bit of like a headache, I would say. Do any of that agree? Citations, referencing can be a bit of like a bit too tedious for you. So yeah, we'll walk through it a bit later, and also learning how to format tables and figures based on APA format, 7th edition specifically. So let's jump into the first part. Now the first part over here, what you essentially see in this slide, right, is sort of like the must knows. So whenever you open your Word document and you are to start your assignments or your research writing, you need to expect yourself to be able to remember all of this. So you should have all of this in your fingertips whenever you open that Microsoft Word document. Okay, so firstly, you would want to change your font type to Times New Roman and font size to 12 point. So remember that Times New Roman's over here and the 12-point font size is going to be your best friend when it comes to opening that Microsoft Word document for APA writing. Okay, and after that, you would change the spacing of the document to double spacing or 2.0. After that, you would want to ensure that the document margin is at the normal preset, that is 1 inch on all sides or 2.54 cm. And then for justify format, it would be left aligned. Okay, so keep in mind that what is written in this table here is somewhat very important and very essential for you to know and to at least remember whenever you are to start formatting a document based on APA format. Okay, and if you are new to APA formatting, that is, you haven't written a paper based on APA formatting before, because some of us we come from background like A levels, right? That we were not exposed to research writing and whatnot. So don't worry, we're going to go through a short demonstration section whereby if you want, can open Microsoft Words on your end. Okay, yeah. You can open it on your end, but if you don't want to follow the demonstration, you just want to like sit, chill, and watch, that's also fine. So the demonstration section will be more of like a visual presentation of what exactly it will look like on your end and allow you to also follow and experience if you want to on yours. Okay, so if everyone is ready, then we will jump into the demonstration section to format your document. So if you want to follow on your side, you can open your Microsoft Word. Okay, and once you open, the first thing you would do is, like I said, Times New Romans and 12 point is going to be your best friend. So you're going to straight away change the font to Times New Romans and change the font size to 12 points. Okay, simple as that. And after you do that, you would go to the paragraph section. So you're still at your home page, and under the paragraph section, you would see a tiny little arrow or a launch button at the bottom over there. So you can click onto it and launch the panel itself, and this thing will pop up over here. Okay, And once it pops out, you will go for spacing. And under spacing, you look at after. So typically at default, it would be at 8 points. So you would change it to 0 point instead. Okay. And after you do that, right beside it, the line spacing, you would change multiple to double. So now you have double space the document on your end. And that is pretty much it for setting your document to double space. Is everyone doing okay? If at any time you can't follow or you can't keep up, you can just let me know, either by voice out or just raising your hand. That'll be fine. Yeah, and you're done. And once you're done, don't forget to click OK. And then the document itself will have already been double space formatted. Okay, then once you have set your font formatting and also your spacing formatting, you now go to the insert tablet, which is right beside the home tab of the Word document. And over there, you will search for a button called page number. So what we're doing here is that we're going to insert a page number to the document itself. Because actually you can insert a page number anytime. Like you can do it at the end after you write and whatnot. But for good practice purposes, you can do it before you write your assignments or your papers, because you may get overwhelmed later and forget to insert the page number. And page number is also essential in APA formatting. So it's good practice to insert it first. And as for inserting the page number should be on the top right of the document. So to have it inserted in the top right of the document, you would press on the plain number 3 option. So after you press onto that, automatically the page number should appear on the top right of your document. Okay. And also take note, right, that because sometimes, although you have already previously formatted your document to Times New Roman 12 point, sometimes the page number that you insert, it may not be in Times New Roman, so it may still fall at calligraphy, for instance, you know. So just to make sure and to double check, it's in Times New Romans and 12. And how would you exactly do that is you just double click on the area where the page number is, which is at the top. And then you would be able to format it on your site. The Times New Romans 12. Okay. And if all is good, is everyone doing okay actually? Everyone doing good so far? Following? Okay, that's good. If all's good, then we will proceed with the margin. So for margin, you would go under the layout. Okay, so we were at the insert tab earlier, now we're moving to the layout. And at the layout tab, you would go for the margins button, and at the margins button, you select normal. So please set the margin to normal. And with it being normal, it should be 1 inch on all sides or 2.54 cm. So depending on your computer setting display, whether it's in inches or cm, they are the same. And once you've done it, then yeah, you pretty much got your document formatted and ready for the writing part. All right. So this is the basic formatting that you would typically do before you start off with writing the content of your papers. And since we're done now, we'll move on to the next section. The first section of you writing in a paper. So that would be your cover page. Okay. So the cover page right here is typically for assignments that we would see it, right? So what the format of the cover page would be is that you would first insert and press the enter tab, the enter key for 3 or 4 times. Okay, so you press it for 3 or 4 times, and then you will start off with writing the title and ensure that the title is folded and in title case. So what is the title case for here? It means that is for the important words, you would want to capitalize it, and for the not so important words, you can just leave it in small case. Okay, and if you have trouble in determining which one should I capitalize, which one should I not capitalize, you can it's actually typically based on the author themselves, but it's for you to decide. But if you are not confident, and if you also want to check, there are also plenty of manager tools online where you can access and check. Right? And after the title, be sure to leave a space before you continue with your name. So your name would be your student name. And after the student name, typically we will also insert our student ID. And after the student ID, it will go on with the department. So which department are you from? And then comma, what university. Okay? And after that, it will be the course code. Course code, which is the course of the assignment that you are completing and whatnot. And then the course name itself. Okay? And after that, it will be the lecturer's name. After the lecturer's name, it will be the tutor's name. So the tutor's name is if it's applicable, like if the subject has a tutor. And lastly, your assignment deadline. Okay? So it's pretty much if you're new to APA formatting and this is your first time seeing cover page, it's kind of really a lot to take in and to remember. But as time passes, as time goes of you completing assignments, it's gonna pretty much stick into your brain by then. Yeah. So also ensure that the cover page is formatted to centered align. Okay, so it should be at the center of your page. Okay, and once you're done, there you go, your cover page is completed. So that's what a cover page for APA formatting would look like. Okay, so is everyone doing okay so far? Everything's clear? Okay. All right, then we will move on to how exactly a sample cover page will look like. So what we went through just now was typically how an individual assignment cover page will look. So if it's an individual assignment, you would just insert your name and your student ID. Group assignment, so there'll be more than one names, right? So, and take note that you do not press enter or insert the name into new lines each time, each time when you're trying to insert members. So instead, you keep it continuous like this. All right. And you will also put the student ID in brackets after the respective student's name. And to continue to the next student, you put a comma. So it will just go on in a list, but also in like a sentence sort of format. You don't really like go on under, you don't really go to a new or enter a new space for a new name. All right. Okay, and now we are covering other basic formatting. So what we have essentially covered just now was general formatting, if you remember, through the demonstration. And then we also went through cover page and now to other basic formatting. So as for other basic formatting, some other important basic formatting that we should know is paragraph alignment and indentation. So what exactly it is that, right, every single time when you are to write a new paragraph, you have to make sure that it's indented. So indented in a sense that it will need to like sort of like, how back in school when we write essays, we need to like leave spacing before we start the new paragraph. So that's exactly what indentation is about. Similarly, and thankfully for Microsoft Word, we can just press the tab button and we don't have to measure it on our own or use our two fingers and whatnot. So you can just press the tab indentation and then voila, you've got your indentation already. Okay, and also make sure that the text alignment should be left aligned. So just now for cover page, it was center aligned. But when we come to the text content of the document, it should be left aligned. All right. And as for formatting numbers, now this can get a bit tricky and also, but it's important for us to know that because when we are writing, especially research reporting later, we'll be using numbers and whatnot in our report, right? So for formatting numbers, if the number is less than 10, okay, you would present it in words, that is, you would spell it out. Okay, and as for numbers that is 10 or more, which is double digit, you will write it in your numericals. So if you have trouble remembering it, you just think of it as like, right, if it's less than 10, the spelling is just like very short, correct? Like maybe like just 3-4 words. Yeah, but when it comes to double digit, for example, like 40 or sometimes 55, it's like more difficult for us to spell. So if it is kind to us, they let us to just take in numbers instead. But there is an exception, okay? Although APA is kind enough to let us do that, there's an exception whereby if you want to start the sentence with a number, you must type it out, like spell it out. instead of typing the number itself. Okay, as you can see in the example here. And just remember as in a way that like every single time when you want to start a sentence, you would spell it out right. You typically won't start a sentence by writing a number. So yeah, hopefully that would help, and hopefully it will stick in your mind in a way on how exactly you can remember to format numbers. Okay, I hope everyone is hanging on in there, because the next part will be citation and referencing. Now, this is the part whereby it can get a bit tedious, and it can also get confusing. So let's jump into the first section, which is in-text citations. So there are two types of in-text citation over there. Firstly, it's narrative citation, and there is parenthetical citation. So narrative citation over here, it refers to the author's name being part of the sentence itself. So it's in the sentence, within the sentence. Okay? And as for parenthetical citation, the author's name is typically in brackets. So it's not really in the sentence itself, but it's separate from the sentence. Okay? And there are different ways of how we are to present when it comes to different number of. So say for instance, if it's just one author, for narrative citation, you would typically present it like this. So according to the author's last name, bracket the year of publishment. Okay, and that's for narrative citation, by the way. And for parenthetical citation, as you can see, it will be the author's last name or surname at the end of the sentence, and also in a bracket. So you can see that for parenthetical citation, right? All of the author's name are typically at the end of the sentence, okay? And they are also in brackets, right? And as for narrative citation, it's within the sentence itself, okay? And when it comes to two authors, for narrative citation, because it's part of the sentence, so you have to spell N out, A-N-D-N. But when it comes to parenthetical citation, which is at the end of the sentence, you can go with the symbol, and you should go with the symbol. Okay, so you can take note on this, because sometimes when we write, as we are immersed in the researching part, we are trying to cite what the original author was doing and whatnot in our paper, right? We can get too immersed, and then we can get confused, and then sometimes we may accidentally type the symbol over here for narrative citation, or sometimes we may accidentally spell out for parenthetical citation. So just to take note on your end, okay? And as for three or more authors, we would typically, for narrative citation, go with et al. Okay? Apart from et al, you can also, for like this example, right, you can present it as Fisk and colleagues. Then in bracket 2002, argue, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And as for parenthetical citation, it would always just be the author's last name et al, followed by the year of publishment. So you can't, like what you did for narrative citation, you have the option to go for like Fisk and colleagues. But as for parenthetical citation, no, you can't. You have to always stick with et al. Okay? And what we covered just now was basically authors themselves writing that paper or that source. But what if we can't find the author's name, and it's actually an organization who published the article itself? So this is how typically an organization's in-text citation would look like. So over here, if you see a first signal phrase and subsequent signal phrase, these two rows, it refers to a narrative citation. And as for these two rows of these two columns over here, it refers to parenthetical citation. Okay, so let's take a look at how the first signal phrase here over here looks. So as for organizations, right, sometimes organization names they can get pretty long, like American Psychological Association. And sometimes we have to save our word count, correct? Or our page count. So we can't just straight away write or cite them as APA. We don't expect our readers to know what APA is. We have to tell them, signal them what APA means. So for the first part, when you mention or cite American Psychological Association, you'll have to write out the whole of the organization's name. Okay? And after you do so, you can put in brackets APA, then followed by the year of publishment. And then for subsequent signal phrases later, when you want to cite it, you can just go with APA at that time, because you have already signaled and told your reader that American Psychological Association will be referred to as APA. Okay? And as for parent article, it's also the same, but because it was already in brackets, right? And then you want to bracket it again, it's gonna look a bit off or weird. So we put like this style of bracket instead, yeah. Just to make it look nicer and not confuse our readers and to make it look not so messy, on the end. And yeah, once you're done, you're done. So simple, right? Is everything okay? Okay. Okay. And then moving on to secondary citation. So what exactly secondary citations here over here means is that you are citing source from another source. So it's like, for instance, if you look over here in this example, a Smith study as cited in Bocock in 2016. So what it means over here is that you are referring to Bocock study right now. Okay. And when you're referring to Bocock study, you came across something interesting or you think may be helpful to support your argument for your writing. And it's actually written by Smith. So you're in Bocock's article, but you saw something that was written by Smith that's interesting. Okay, so how would you cite it if you want to use that evidence? This is how exactly you would do it, and that is what is called secondary citation. Okay, and also note that we try to avoid secondary citation as much as possible. Why? Because you can picture it just like I'm not sure if you guys know the whispering game. I don't know if that's like a official name for it, but I just call or refer to it as whispering game. So it's like how you whisper one message, right, from one end to the other end. Typically, when the message goes to the other end, the message is already distorted or not similar or not the same as what it was received previously at the front. So you can think of it as something like that. Secondary citation, because it's been transmitted and transmitted and transmitted through so many authors. So it may essentially, the sentence or the meaning of the particular information may be losing its meaning or essence. So that is why we try to avoid secondary citation. But if you really cannot find the primary source of it, like you cannot find, for instance, whether a Smith study because it was print, or if it's unavailable, then yeah, you've got no choice but to use secondary citation. Otherwise, you can actually, if you're in Bocock's paper and you want to use Smith's idea or like the citation over there, just press onto Smith's paper and then go through it a bit and use it. Then that's already a primary citation. You don't need a secondary citation for it. Alright? And after we've covered a bit on in-text citation, we'll now jump into direct quotation. So what direct quotation here is that when you are using the author's word for word. Okay, so it's okay, I won't really call it copying, but it's actually kind of like just using the author's words itself into your writing. Okay, and how exactly do you do direct quotation? According to APA, is that you put quotation marks. Okay, and you would also typically want to include the three important elements, which is the author, year, and the page number. Okay, so when you are planning or you would want to do a direct quotation, you may come across two different cases. So firstly, you can see over here is case one, short quotation. So short quotation over here, it refers to less than 40 words. So if it's less than 40 words, you would typically present your quotation like that in the example. Okay, and you put the quotation marks, and also be sure to include the author's last surname and also the year and also the page. And after that, for case two, which is block quotation, so that is for more than 40 words, and because it's a lot, and you put it into one sentence like how we did in case one, it will look a bit too chunky, it will look a bit too ugly. Okay, so what we would essentially do is that we would start on a fresh line, we would go to a new line, and then we insert the quotation instead. Okay, and take note that the one for case one presented or the example, right? Can maybe you guys tell me what type of citation is that? Is that a narrative citation or is that a parenthetical citation? For case one example. Parent article, yes, that's correct. It's parent article. Whoever who answered parent article in their heart, you're also correct. Okay. So as for case two, it would be, or would it be narrative or parent article? I hear narrative. Yeah, that's good. Narrative. Yes, good job. Okay, and also good job to everyone who answered narrative in their heart. Okay. So that is pretty much it for direct communication. I hope everyone is keeping up. So everyone doing okay? Yeah. Okay. If all's good, then we will move on to reference sources. So we covered in-text citation, we covered direct quotation. And where exactly do we get all of these from? From sources. And when it comes to sources, there are different types of sources we can refer to. So some examples include journal articles, books chapter, conference paper, websites, or sometimes even master's dissertation, or even theses you can find online. Okay. And just to take note that although yes, websites are allowed to be your reference source, take note that it should not be blog posts or Wikipedia. And we should also try to avoid websites that end with .org or .net. So typically we would think that it's okay if it ends with .org or .net, right? Like it should be reliable. But according to APA, it's not reputable enough for them. Okay, they would prefer something more of like .edu or .edu or .gov, which is by the government. So it should be either published by a university or a government for it to be called reliable. Okay. And now moving on to formatting references. Now this is the it can get a bit tedious over here. And yes, of course, we do have reference managers to help us online, like tools or extensions, whereby we can just install them and then it can help us do our referencing. So why do we even need to learn all of this, right? But the truth is that because they are computer tools, so sometimes they may detect the page itself wrongly or certain elements wrongly, and the reference that comes out later is going to be like not correct. So you, as a human and as a professional student, you will need to be able to identify when it's right and it's wrong. And that's why we are here to learn how exactly would the reference look like. So you would need to be able to have a gist or have an idea on how exactly, it should look like. So that if the computer is wrong, you can be like, okay, the computer is wrong. You can tell right away. Yeah. So first thing for journal articles, which is one of the most used sources when it comes to referencing, is what you can see in red. That would be how the format looks. And as for black, it would be how the example would look like in real life. Okay, so the format goes with the author's surname, followed by their initials, and then other authors if applicable or if there is, and then yours in bracket, followed by the title of article. Now note that the title of article would be in sentence case. So what that means is that only the beginning would be capitalized. So the rest of it would be in small case, unless it's a product. Okay? And after that, you will go with title of periodical or title of the journal article. Like sorry, not the title, the name of the journal article, the name of the journal that was published. And note that it is in italics. Then we put a comma, we go on with the volume. So the volume over here should also be in italics. Then we stop the italic font already. We go back to normal font, we open our bracket, we put issue number. After issue number, we close the bracket, comma again, then pages. Don't forget to put a full stop or period, and then insert your DOI. So yeah, it can be a lot to take in, especially if it's your first time, learning about APA formatting. But as time goes, you will be able to have it in your mind. Okay. And moving on to books. Now, as for books, it's also quite similar to journal article, if you can see. So it would start off with the author's surname, followed by their initials. And then it would be the year of publication in brackets again. Okay. And then it would be the title of the word or title of the book in italics. And subtitle if identified. Ensure if there is a subtitle, right, ensure to insert a colon before you begin writing the subtitle itself. and then full stop to publisher name. After publisher name, full stop again, then DOI if available. If you refer to a hard copy of the book, then you don't need to insert DOI. Okay. And as for websites, we would typically include again the author's name, the author's surname, last name, and then we would include the year once again. And what is additional over here is the month and the date. So you can see how the month and the date will be included after the year. Okay, then you close your bracket, you move on to the title of the website again, in italics, and then site name, followed by the URL. Okay, so yeah, it can get a bit descriptive over here, but as you learn to reference, throughout your research writing journey, you would find it, somewhat, and automatically it'll stick in your head. Yeah. Then, if what we covered just now for website was individual authors, if you can't seem to find individual authors because the website was published or written by a group author instead, or a group name, then you would insert the group name itself. So the group name itself, followed by again the year, the month, and the date, and the title of what the page is called in italics, followed by the site name and then the URL. Okay. Make sure to include the URL because it's a website, so the URL should be there. And as for dictionary, thesaurus, or encyclopedia, so if you are looking to cite references to support the definition of your variables later, you would refer to dictionary or thesaurus. So when it comes to that, don't really cite it like how you do in websites. So they have sort of a different way of referencing it. And over here, how you would do it is that you would first include the institution or the organization name. Okay, and after you include that, you would include again just the year. Okay, so no month and day needed, just the year. And after that, you will put title of entry. So title of entry, it could be, for example, if you search what does short-term memory mean, short-term memory would be the title of your entry. And over here in example, it's just role hypothesis. All right. And after the title of entry, you will go on with what is the title of reference word in italics. Okay. Then you would put the retrieve date. So what exactly is the date of retrieving that information and now referencing it into your paper? Okay. So that is what retrieve date is about. Then you go on with from the URL again. All right. Is everyone okay? Everyone looks a bit tired and I hope everyone's okay. But if it's not okay again, just let me know. If I'm going a bit too fast, if it's a bit confusing, just let me know. Raise up your hand or you can voice up from where you are. All right. Okay, and now we move on to the reference list. So now after we have learned how to reference different sources, now we're gonna be putting it and presenting it in our list of references. So be sure to put your title page in center and also bold it in bold text. After that, you would also typically format your reference list in a hanging indentation. Okay, and also ensure that it's double spaced over here, like what we covered earlier for general formatting. So over here, it's also double spaced. And ensure that your references are in alphabetical order. So from A to Z. Okay, if you need to, you can just go ahead and sing the ABC song while you do your reference. Okay. And also, right, just to share, I'm not sure if anyone of you have paid attention to this, but then, right, if you notice references, you should always have S at the end, not just reference. Because there was once, right, a lecturer, they shared that the student, they just write reference without the S. And it turns out that, they will deduct a bit of their marks. So yeah, that is really just giving free marks away, So just be sure to include the S because references, right, it's more than one reference. So yes, references, not reference. Okay. Okay, now that we've covered citation and references, I hope everyone is they are still okay, we can still go on. And we'll move on to the next section known as heading levels. So how exactly do we format heading levels? So when it comes to writing a research paper, we don't just write how we write in our essays, just a whole page of words, a whole block of words, 10 pages of like just words or paragraphs. So we tend to put in headings to improve readability, to guide our readers to, make it look good in a sense. Yeah. And so there are 5 different levels of headings. So firstly, if you can see level 1, level 1 over here is that it should be centered in the document, boldface with title case heading, and you would typically start your text in a new paragraph. Okay, and as for level 2 heading, it will now flush to the left side. Okay, it's still in boldface and also in title case heading. Okay, and you will also typically start the text in a new paragraph. And for level 3 heading, you would now italicize it. So it is essentially the same as level 2 heading, just that you're italicizing for level 3. And as for level 4, it would be indented. So now it's indented, but it's not italicized. Yeah, okay. So it's just in boldface, indented, and title case heading. And also you would want to take note that the text will now start on the same line as the header itself, the heading itself. And similarly for level 5, similar to level 4, as you can see, just that it is now in italics for the heading itself. And you will also typically start the text in the same line as the paragraph. And if you sort of have trouble remembering, or you're confused, okay, what are these, what exactly is these levels of headings? But basically you can think of it, right, as like the whole writing that you are producing later as like a home. Okay, so it's a home, and then inside the home you have different rooms, right, in a house, right? And so that is what level 1 heading is. It's sort of like a general category for a very big area. So level 1 heading acts like a room in a house. Okay, and then for level 2, it would be more of like the areas in the room. So for example, if it was a kitchen, then there would be a washing area or like the cooking area. So that's what level 2 is. And you can also see how it's getting more and more specific. So in level 3 later, it will be referring to the appliances or the furniture that is in the kitchen. So you can see again how it's getting more and more specific. And as for level 4, for instance, it could be the cupboards that you have in the kitchen, and then the labels that you are labeling your drawers with. So that is what level 4 heading is about. And then level 5 heading would be something like the drawer labels. You are now sticking sticky notes onto it. So it's getting very, very specific on how exactly those things are presented. So that is also how level of headings are. They are getting more and more and more specific. And of course, you will want to ask yourself, right, whenever you pick a heading or you tend to insert a heading, you want to ask yourself and ensure, right, that is there a point? Will it really improve the readability? Is there a purpose to it for me to include the heading? So you don't just include the heading as you wish. Okay? And then this is how exactly the levels of heading will look like in a typical academic paper, of course, minus the contents. So level 1 heading, as you can see, for the methods and the result. So they will be at a center in both ways. Okay, and as for level 2, it would now be flushed to the left, of course, still bolded. Okay, and as for level 3, it is flushed to the left, bolded, italicized. And you can check out level 4 heading under results for teachers in training. So it's now indented in boldface. And as for level 5, it's also indented, also in boldface, also italicized. Okay, so once again, these levels of headings are for you to categorize the writing that you want to present, and be sure to make sure that there is a purpose for you to include those headings. Okay. And now we move on to how exactly do we structure our content according to APA. So we don't just dump a bunch of text into the document and then format it according to what we learned earlier, those general formatting, do citation, do referencing, okay, that's APA format document. Now, in APA formatting, there are a few things that we should take note of when it comes to writing sections. So the first section would be abstract. And typically the abstract will come after your cover page or the AI one for our university assignments. And for abstract, it would always again start on a new page, so you don't continue from the previous page for 1 month. And ensure that the abstract is at the center and bolded. I'm not sure if the changes was reflected on your end, but previously it was heading is centered and not bolded. Okay, so please take note that it's actually centered and bolded according to APA 7th edition. Okay, and once it's already centered and bolded, you've got your abstract title over there. You will now move on to the text or the content of the abstract. So take note that again, there is no indentation for abstract. So I know I mentioned that for every new paragraph you need an indentation previously, but for abstract it will be an exception. Okay? And after your text, typically you would include the keywords. So keywords over here, keywords itself should be written in italics, followed by at least 3 keywords. So note that it's at least 3 keywords, nothing less than 3. All right? And according to APA 7th edition, the abstract should be less than 250 words. But it's always good to again go back to your course HLMS page or to ask your lecturers and double check on what is the word count for abstract. All right. And typically for abstract, we do not have running head. So running head only applies to professional papers, and as for student papers, which is us, we don't need running head. So it's a relief for us that we don't need to learn, more about that. Just know that there's no running head needed. Okay. And how would you or what would you put in an abstract? So typically an abstract is something that is short and simplified of what your research writing is about. Think of it like a summary, an interesting summary for your readers to, take a look at. It's sort of the first impression you will need to put. Okay, and it's got to be a good impression, right? If it's not great, then your reader will most likely just close your paper and won't even read it. Won't even continue reading the contents later. So what include in the abstract is typically the aim of your study or the research objective, followed by participants. So the number of participants, maybe if you want brief demographics about them, who are they? All right, and then to methods. So how was it? What type of experiments? And then to results. So what exactly did you find? Okay, just 1 sentence, 2 sentences, that would be good. All right, and then to conclusion and to possible implications. So why exactly or how exactly would this study be useful or helpful to the field of psychology or to the field of your study? Okay, and take note again, abstract. It doesn't have to be too lengthy. It doesn't have to be too fancy. Don't use those fancy words. Just keep it simple, simplified, short. That's a good abstract. Okay. And now moving on to the main body. So after your abstract, you will typically start writing your contents for your research. So you will typically start with the title of your study. So the title of your study over here, it should be in title case and bolded. All right, before you begin typing the text. And after you're done formatting the title of the main body page, you will now move on to the content part, whereby once again you would insert an indentation for every paragraph. So for every new paragraph, insert an indentation. Okay, and how would you do that? By pressing the tab key on your keyboard. And typically, you would start a new paragraph when you are to introduce a new point or a new idea. So just take note, this is also your choice as the author of your paper, when exactly you want to start a new paragraph. And just ensure that when each paragraph is started, there is sort of a purpose, it will sort of improve credibility in a sense. Okay. And now moving on to learning how to format tables. So tables over here, they will come particularly useful, especially when you're writing lab response data. So for your research writing courses later, you will be asked to run experiments, run a study on your own. And what you would do when you want to present the results is that you can use tables. So note that once you insert a table, right, you don't have to write out the content to explain the table. So the table should speak for itself. So when the reader or your lecturer, when they read the table, they should be able to know what exactly you're telling them. So you don't have to, have a separate paragraph to explain what this table is about. So it should not be repeated. If you find yourself needing to type out or explain once again what was written in the table, then your table is not useful or not helpful enough. And then you may reconsider, should I actually add a table, or am I formatting my table correctly? Am I doing what I'm supposed to in the table correctly? Okay? And when you insert a table, you would typically begin with the table number in bold. Okay? And after that, you will go on to the next slide, which is your title. As for your title, it should be italicized. So the title over here, right? Again, it should be representing what the content is about. So not too general. Try to be as specific as possible with what exactly your table is presenting in italics. Okay, and then you will also want to take note that when it comes to APA formatting tables, we try to avoid lines. So typically in tables we have lines to help us organize everything, but for APA we try our best to minimize the lines, and the lines are only included, especially only horizontal lines. Okay, so they do not want to see vertical lines in your tables based on APA format. So once you include, if you want to include horizontal lines, you will want to ask, okay, if I include this horizontal line, will it actually help my reader? Will it actually improve readability on their side? If it doesn't really help them, and if it doesn't really make sense to include that line, then don't include it. All right. And if you have any notes, that is like any explanation that you want, for instance, abbreviations or p-value significance, you want to indicate it outside of the table, then you would put it under the notes. All right. And after that, you will also want to ensure that your entries in the table, they are all centered around. Okay, so yeah, typically this is how the format of the table based on APA formatting it will look like. So as you can see, they try to avoid as many lines as possible. And if they ever include lines, it's just for them to ensure, it's neat enough in a sense. But you also don't find them including horizontal lines for every single row, right? So yes, take note on your end. And this is how an example of the table would look like based on APA format. As you can see, typically, for the notes section, right, they would include things like explanation of the table if needed. And then again, the abbreviations, the symbols, what exactly do they mean? So it's just a note for the authors to, take note on their end. Because when you're in the table itself, right, for instance, the probability notes over here, so the p-value is less than 0.05 and whatnot. If you want to include the p-value up in the table, it may look a bit ugly because at times it may not be what it should be over there. Okay. This will be covered in some statistics workshop. Join Psi Chi statistics workshop. Okay. To learn more about the p-value and whatnot. But yes, typically if you want to include the significance value and whatnot, so you put an asterisk over here to indicate the value of the table, right? And be sure to include it in the notes as well, because you don't expect your readers to know straight away, okay, this is p-value less than, 0.05 and etc. Okay? Is everyone doing okay? All right. Now we move on to figures. So figures over here, they are kind of like tables, except they are like more like graphs and yeah. So what, as you can see, the format is quite similar to tables just now. You will start off with figure number, okay, in bold, and then you will go on with the sample figure title. So what exactly is the figure about? In the title again, not too general. It should just label what exactly the figure is. All right, and after that, you would of course include the figure, and then within the figure itself, you would typically include the legend. So it would tell like, okay, which, like for example, over here it's a powder. So the legends here would indicate what color is what. All right, and after you do so, you would typically also add a note if needed. So again, the note here is more of like supplementary information or additional explanation you wish to include for your figures. So once again, if it helps the reader, include it. If it doesn't help, then there's no point of including it, so don't include it. All right. So every time when you want to insert a table, you want to insert a figure, and then you want to insert a note, for instance, ask yourself, is it necessary? Will it be helpful for my readers? If it doesn't help, then don't include it. Okay. And after we are, done with covering all about the formatting, formatting in-text citation, references, the general formatting part, tables and figures, we will now briefly go through stylistics, which is language on how you are to write a typical academic paper. So based on APA, Southern Edition format, typically we would write in an academic tone. So academic tone over here refers to something that's somewhat formal, and we also want to, indicate our professionalism as we write. So it's not like your typical essay writing for English class. It's more of like serious stuff right now. It's like a serious formal talk to your readers. Okay? And as for academic tone, be sure to ensure that your language is clear and concise, and you want to avoid jargon that is like technical terms. So if terms are something that like I don't know, you would, need to look up in a dictionary to understand that we try to keep it as simple as possible, for the sake of our readers, to, not overwhelm them too much. And that's what makes a good academic paper after all, right? So yeah, we tend to avoid jargon. So two technical terms that will, give our readers a headache. So we don't want that. We avoid jargons. And also we tend to encourage bias-free language. That is to use appropriate and respectful language to certain communities of people. So typically, person first language or identity first language would be preferred. And if you're referring to a very specific community of people, you may also sometimes want to check, do some background checking whether the community of people they would prefer person first language or identity first language. Because after all, we need to respect other people, other communities, right? And yeah, we avoid, just going straight up like the disabled. That's not very nice. That's not very respectful. Again, this is academic writing. We want to be professional. We want to be as professional as possible. Okay. And we also want to avoid using gendered pronouns. So again, when we are referring to a community of people, we want to just keep it with they rather than he or she, because we don't know, or yeah, we don't know what exactly they would prefer on their end. So we go on with something more respectful, more generalized thing. All right, everyone is doing okay. Yeah, any question, anything that is like confusing or like, I did not go through in depth enough. Is everything okay?
Can you mention the tables where it specify the key values, putting asterisk thing about that?
Oh, okay, sure. So as for the her question on the probability notes, so typically you will include it in the notes section. Now, as for the types of p-value, like the amount of asterisk, you can see in the site itself, right? So p is less than 0.05 is 1 asterisk, and then p is less than 0.01 is 2 asterisk. So if you include notes like that, and then you look at the table of at the right side, at your right side, okay? Yeah, should be right side. Yes. Right side, you can see that the term values, there's the asterisks over there, right? Beside it. So if you look at the variable number 1, and then negative 0.08. So what exactly it means here? There's 2 asterisks, right? So 2 asterisks means it's p less than 0.01. Okay? So again, the purpose of you including the probability notes is to guide the readers. Okay? And another example, if you look at variable number 3.04 with just 1 asterisk, and what it means is that the p-value for that is p is less than 0.05. Okay? And of course, the number of asterisks is subjected to change. So say if your results later, you find p is less than 0.01, you don't find, p in the, how do I put this? I don't think I should cover this. This is very statistics. It's not It's not what this workshop should be, okay? Yeah, but yeah, I hope you get a better idea of how it looks like and what exactly the asterisks here are doing for the probability nodes. Everything else okay? Is everyone else okay? Okay, if that's okay, that means you understood, right? You understood what was being gone through today. Now it's your turn, okay, to try out. It's just very, very simple. So if you are able to complete this, that means you have already mastered the basics of APA. You are now masters of basics of APA. Okay, so now let's look at this slide. So, okay, I know that maybe you guys also access the answers on your end. Please try not to look at it, okay? Let's all try this together. So if you look at this page over here, is there any mistakes? If there is, shout out, or if you're shy, please raise up your hand. You seem like you want to answer. Double line spacing? Yeah, that's correct. The double line spacing, right? You're referring to. Okay. Okay, hold on. Okay, so what she mentioned is the double line spacing over here. Yes, that's correct. That's one of the mistakes that is intentionally done on this page. Okay, if everyone else also got that, then that's good on your end. What else? What other stuff, you know, apart from the double line spacing over here? What other things? You want to scan through the whole document over here, right? From top to bottom. Is there anything else? Title is not bolded. This one, right? Title is not bolded, right? Yeah, it's not bolded. Yeah. What about you? What about you? Was it the same thing? Or yes, exactly. Times New Romans and top line is your best friend. So that is wrong because it's in category body. Okay. What else? Is there anything else? So we have the forum, then we have the bolded part for the title. We had double spacing. Is there anything else? Yeah, the 8 point over here for line spacing. So for after, it should be 0 point, not 8 point. Very good job on identifying that. So good job, everyone. I'm pretty sure all of you, also, some of you, other people, or maybe you guys were a bit, shy to share your answers. Answer it in your heart. That's good. You got it. Okay. So now, yeah. So this is the explanation for what essentially was the mistake. Okay. And now moving on to next exercise. Is there anything wrong with this? Okay, if you don't understand the content, it's fine. Okay, the content is just there, but what we're now looking at is the format. So, what is there anything? Maybe there's also no mistakes. You never know. Yeah, that's right. The title is mid-centered. That's a good one. Okay. So yes, the title should typically be centered when it comes to the main body part. What else? Is there anything else, or are we done? Anything else? Again, don't look at the answers, please. Is there anything? If there's nothing, you can maybe like put a thumbs up, to indicate or to like tell me, okay, you think everything is okay in this document apart from the title. No one is giving me a thumbs up. That means there's something wrong, right? Parenthetical citation? Where?
Remnants and when further.
Yeah, what's wrong with it? Yeah, correct. So for parenthetical citation through authors, it should typically be the simple N, not to spell out N, because when you want to spell out N, it will be under narrative citation. Okay? Okay, I hope everyone else also got that on your end, but if you didn't, it's not your fault either, because it's also something that's quite tedious and difficult to spot over here as like a bunch of text and you don't even understand what it's talking about. So it's completely fine. But yes, when you are writing, so these are some examples of how you also take note on your end. So later when you're done writing, your research paper, sometimes as you scan through and you read through your paper, you may also miss out something like that. The parenthetical citation for two authors, the symbols, etc. And now over here, is there any mistakes or are we good? Again, maybe there's no mistakes at all. So if there's no mistakes and you think there's no mistakes, just give me a thumbs up. Thumbs down. That's so sweet. What about you guys? What do you think? Thumbs up? Do you think it's good? Is there anything wrong with it?
Nine.
The headlines, what about the headlines though?
The design should be bold, left side, left, right.
Yeah, that's correct. So design over here, it should be level 2 heading. Okay? Because for methods, it's already level 1, right? It's the center bolded. And then now we come to the design, you want to go with level 2, not level 1 as well. Because over here is portrayed as level 1. Okay, any other things? Any other things over here apart from the design? So now we're typically, technically to give you context, if you are not aware or not sure what this is, so this is actually the methods page of a research writing paper. Okay, so the methods over here is actually the word methods. It serves as the level 1 heading to give you context. So like she mentioned just now, design should be level 2 heading. So is there anything else that seems wrong? Or is everything okay? If everything's okay, again, just give me a thumbs up. Because no one is giving me a thumbs up, so I'm assuming there's something wrong. So there is something wrong, right? Yeah, there is. Yeah, right. Exactly. So materials should be also level 2 heading, so it should flush to the left side. Okay. Anything else apart from design materials? So now that we have materials flush as level 2 heading. Okay. So anything else? Are we missing anything? No? We're all good. So that's a thumbs up. Is that right? Does everyone agree with the thumbs up? Do you agree with? I feel so bad for calling out people. So yeah, so thumbs up. No? Thumbs up. What about you guys in the back? What do you guys think? Are we done? Yeah. Okay. So actually because materials it is in level 2 heading, right? When it comes to over here, the Purdue ICAP set, because the previous slide, it was already a level 2 heading. So now we're trying to specify what exactly is the material. So one of the materials used for this study is the Purdue ICAP set. And if you remember, I mentioned earlier, as whenever we go more and more specific and we put a heading, right, we would want to, move on to the next level of heading already. So for the Purdue ICAP set, it should be a level 3 heading, which means it should be italicized. So yes, it should be flushed to the left side, it should be bolded, but it should also be italicized to indicate that it's a level 3 heading. Okay. Okay. I hope everyone was able to get something out of it, especially through the practice. We were able to somewhat, apply the basic parts of APA formatting that we've covered today. And now, coming to the last part, is there anything wrong with this? If everything is okay, again, just give me a thumbs up or you can just go out and say nothing. So everything's okay? Is there any mistakes that you found? Yeah? This one you're referring to, this one? Yeah, that's correct. So he mentioned that Journal of Political Economy here should be italicized. Which is what it typically should be because it's a journal reference. So the name of the journal that the article was included in, it should be italicized. Okay, is there anything else apart from that? If everything is good, then yeah, we're good. Then yeah, we should be done. So is everything okay? Do you guys think it's okay? Okay? No, not okay. Is there something wrong? Something wrong? Tomorrow? 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 What about tomorrow? Go, go. Okay, what is wrong with that? A dash? So yeah, she's correct. For the page title, the page number, sorry, page number, it should be, the page number you're referring to whatever page it is. So you don't spell out the two, but you insert the dash instead. Okay? Again, for references, of course, you have like computers, you have apps, you have extensions which can do it for you, which is completely fine. And it's, of course, also encouraged to help you to save time and also be more efficient, right? But as humans on our end, we will need to be able to understand the gist of it. Like how exactly would reference for certain sources look like? And yeah, good job to everyone who gave it a try, who gave it a go. Also for your courage for speaking out loud. Yeah, and if you're a bit too shy, but you knew the answers in your heart. Yeah, good job to you too. Okay, and thank you so much for everyone's attention today. I hope hopefully this workshop and also as we covered different sections of APA formatting today, you were able to get something and hopefully something also stayed into your mind. Okay, if you have any questions, you can reach out right now. Or if you're also a bit too shy, you can like come and ask later. But yeah, if you have any doubts, any uncertainties in the future, you can always also go back to refer to the APA official website. Okay, and yes, thank you everyone once again for your attention. And if you could just do me a favor, help me to fill out this form. So yeah, it will be much, much, much valued, and I'll be very grateful. Psi Chi will be very grateful for it.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you, Psi Chi, for having me, and thank you to all the audience, all of you here who made time to come to this workshop. It means a lot to me as well as to Psi Chi. So thank you, everyone. Have a good day ahead. Hope you guys learned something new.